Hello YouTube, I'm Monster Show here, and I got for you guys today a really good and extremely close RU Wi-Fi battle against Dean Blaid. So of course, if you guys do enjoy the battle, then make sure to hit the like button and to answer the question of the day. So looking at the team going into this match, easily the biggest threat I saw on my opponent's team was going to be Mega Glalie, because as you saw my team, it destroys 4 out of my 6 Pokemon, so I really have to play careful and aggressive around his Mega Glalie. So predicting him to lead off with the Glalie, I end up leading off with my Hitmonlee, allowing me to go straight for the knockoff, knowing that he wouldn't want to stay in with Glalie and risk losing his biggest threat to my team, as I get pretty lucky turn 1 and I'm able to crit the incoming Golbat. Knowing that I have no move to be able to OHKO this Golbat, I am going to be forced to switch out, as he actually pulls a double switch, predicting me to want to switch out. And I am a Scarf Moltres, and I was hoping that he would actually end up being a Specs Heliolisk. However, though, it turns out that he is Scarfed himself, as he's able to outspeed me, get off a huge amount of damage with the Volt Switch as I Fire Blast the incoming Jellicent. In hindsight, I probably should have gone for the Hurricane, but I highly doubt it would have done too much more damage than Fire Blast. So I'm going to be forced to switch out, seeing as I am locked into the Fire Blast. As I bring in my Druddigon, I found this to be a perfect opportunity to either go for my Stealth Rocks or go for an aggressive play by going for Dragon Claw, expecting him to want to bring in his Golbat or even his Glalie if he really wanted to risk that, because if I get rid of Golbat, I get rid of his Defogger, allowing me to have Stealth Rocks up to deal with Glalie. Unfortunately though, I ended up going for the Stealth Rocks, thinking that he wouldn't make the extremely risky play of bringing in Glalie as he did here, and I'm kind of in a bad situation just because I don't exactly have anything to switch into this Mega Glalie, so I'm going to be forced to leave in my Druddigon. Now originally this Druddigon actually was supposed to have Rocky Helmet. I changed items last second and I gave it leftovers, and you're gonna see that me not having Rocky Helmet really ends up hurting me later in this match, as I'm gonna force him to switch out. I'm not gonna mess around with the Mega Glalie, I'm gonna go straight for the Mach Punch, and in hindsight maybe I should have gone for the knockoff, just because it was pretty obvious that he wouldn't lose Glalie very early on in this match. As he brings in the Golbat, I was really skeptical if a knockoff would be able to finish him off, so I decided to switch directly into my Meloetta, as he ends up going for the Roost. And then I go for Shadow Ball, thinking that he would probably fear me going for the Psychic and switch directly into his Reuniclus. And because I'm Choice Specs, I do get off a solid amount of damage on the Golbat. Unfortunately though, he is going to be able to defog away Stealth Rock. So this turn, predicting him to switch into either his Pangoro or his Heliolisk, I decide to pull a double switch into my Sceptile, as he actually ends up bringing in the Pangoro. This basically gives me a free chance to Mega Evolve, and I was just really hoping and praying that I would not miss this Focus Blast. Thankfully I don't, and I'm going to be able to straight OHKO the Pangoro. And even if he did turn out to be a Choice Scarf variant of Pangoro, there was no way he would be able to outspeed me, just because Pangoro does not have the highest base speed around. As he gets a free switch back into his Glalie, I really have no use for Articuno whatsoever, so I decided just to fodder him off, and then this way I can get a free switch back into my Hitmonlee, so I can again apply offensive pressure on this Glalie, as I believe I do actually end up going for a double switch into my Meloetta, predicting him to bring in his Golbat. And now I'm in a solid situation where I can honestly just safely go for Psychic, because I'm very positive that he's going to predict me to go for the Shadow Ball and bring in his Heliolisk. As he does do so, I'm going to be able to straight up OHKO Heliolisk, getting rid of his Volt Switcher, which is actually pretty good for me. Then again, I do have Sceptile and Gligar, but there's a chance he could have had Hidden Power Ice, so now I no longer have to worry about that. As he brings in his as he brings in Jellicent, he can really do nothing to my Meloetta, just because I am part normal. Shadow Ball does not affect me, and if he does want to go for Scald, Meloetta does have a pretty high special defense stat, and I don't have to worry about him going for any offensive move, as he does end up going for Toxic. I get lucky and I get a special defense drop, allowing me to stay in to go for another Psychic, as I get a second special defense drop on the incoming Reuniclus, and fearing that he could go for a Focus Blast, I switched directly into my Gligar, but he actually ended up switching onto his Golbat. Now, I'm not too sure if he does carry Focus Blast or not, or maybe he did predict me to switch out. In that case, that was a very nice switch on his part, as I predict him to go for the Roost, because at this point it's very obvious that it's really the only move Golbat can go for, because if he does want to stay in and go for Brave Birds, eventually he will end up getting knocked out by the recoil damage. So judging for how much damage the Earthquake did, I thought that he would want to switch out, fearing another Earthquake, but he ends up making a risky play and goes for a second Roost, allowing me to get a U-turn on now into my Meloetta. And here I make a very questionable play. My thought process was that there is no way he's going to risk switching into Jellicent, because there is a chance I could 2-hit KO him with Psychic. So I'm going to go for the Hyper Voice, predicting him to either leave in his Golbat or switch into Reuniclus. But he does switch directly into his Jellicent, and now I am going to be forced to switch out, as he can go for a Scald, or he can go for a Toxic, or even just go for a Recover, as he does end up going for the Scald. Luckily he does not get the burn, and if I had Substitute on the Sceptile, this would have been an absolutely amazing situation where I could have gone for the sub, because I would have been behind a sub and I would have been able to still most likely finish off this Golbat, considering that Giga Drain is 4 times resisted. I highly doubt that extra bit of damage would have come into play, and then I would have been able to be behind a Substitute on whatever he decided to bring in and potentially OHKO it with one of my other offensive moves. But because I don't have sub, I am going to be forced to switch out as he brings in his Glalie. The Ice Shard is extremely obvious, but because I don't want to lose my Meloetta or my Hitmonlee, I'm going to be forced to switch directly into my Gligar, allowing me to get a free switch into my Hitmonlee. And I predict him to switch into either his Reuniclus or his Jellicent, thinking that I would want to go for the Mach Punch. So I pull a double switch into Meloetta as he stays in and goes for the return, and is going to be able to easily knock me out. And at this point I'm only down to my Hitmonlee and my Mega Sceptile, and I thought that I've honestly just lost at this point, because I was not expecting to be able to OHKO Jellicent or OHKO Reuniclus, because they do have a respectable bulk. So he predicts the Mach Punch very nicely. Much to my surprise, I'm able to one-shot the Jellicent. Most likely it was specially defensive, so I guess it shouldn't be that big of a surprise, because I am adamant max attack with Life Orb. But as he brings in Reuniclus, I was really hoping that my Sceptile could live any one hit, and then in return I could get off a bit of chip damage with Giga Drain, bringing him down to where my knockoff would be able to finish him off. However though, I get straight up OHKO'd, but in return I'm going to be able to OHKO his Reuniclus, and now it's down to his Mega Glalie and my Hitmonlee. And I'm very positive that a stabbed, super effective, max attack, Life Orbed Mach Punch will be able to finish off this Glalie, but he lives on 2%, and in return is going to be able to finish me off with return, and that is going to be the extremely narrow 1-0 victory in Dean Blaid's favor. So even though Mega Glalie was such a huge problem to my team, I felt that I really played well around it, although there were situations where I could have been more aggressive, which is what I should have been. But in the end, because I took off Rocky Helmet on Drotagon and put Leftovers, it ended up really costing me. But it was still an extremely fun and very good battle in my opinion, and hopefully you guys did enjoy it, and if you did, then you know what to do. With that being said, guys, I will see you all tomorrow with another upload. So until then, later everybody.